Sean, would we be able to hold up the two cards? Okay, so we have the character and plot cards. So an aging butler reminiscing about their glory days and discovers a terrible secret about their own family. So our working title is The Internal Butler.
Yes.
And we're still fleshing out ideas. Do you have any potential subplots you can imagine?
Well, I think we've kind of, now that we've decided that, you know, this butler will be in the first act in this kind of comfortable and maybe working environment where they're in their home, where they've been their entire career, and perhaps their father was a butler before that and the father was a butler before that. And then a terrible family secret is discovered. Perhaps that they're even, you know, related to the other family, or that there has been, you know, whatever it is that, you know, questions his entire life and what he believes in, because he was truly someone who believed in whatever that cause was in that household, or whatever that was. And then it turns out that a lot of that is not true. And he literally strips his garb of butlership, of butlering, and wanders out, and perhaps even first, you know, lives some life of debauchery, you know, perhaps just gets a little drunk, and maybe gets into a fight and ends up on a bus and ends out in the middle of nowhere and ends up at this somewhat dilapidated desert hotel that is run by a, you know, I still haven't decided exactly who's running it. And I think that the drag queen would be too obvious at this point in our way that we watch movies, but perhaps maybe someone that, you know, like a gruff old dude, like another gruff old dude that they can kind of just butt up against, like maybe a gruff old black dude if it's a gruff white dude, you know, whatever it is, just somebody who's really just, where they can really just have the gruff old dude thing. You know, and because the aging butler is going to be, he's going to be very set in what he perceives as what things should be. And there'll be a lot of people trying to tell him that that's not the way things are. And I think that that's what's going to be really interesting. I think it bring a lot of the comedic elements that I could see in it as well. Yeah. So, and then, yes, well, I guess go what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was thinking because, you know, sometimes like people that work sort of on the outskirts of a lot of wealth, money and things, they adopt those same principles even though they don't really have it. Mm-hmm. But they kind of almost have this delusion that they do, and they become snobs. I've seen that a lot. So maybe he has a snobbery about him, but then they kind of strip him away of that. Like, if you're so great, why are you here? What landed you here? You know?
Absolutely. It's exactly that. It's exactly, who are you? And, you know, you just wandered out here. You don't have any money. You don't have anything. Maybe now he's been put to work there, you know, and he's trying to like help at this hotel, you know, this kind of hotel. And I've always been fascinated by like kind of low end hotels or motels. Maybe it's a hotel and not just a motel, but a hotel. Like a kind of like you know, it used to be this great, you know, Palm Springs or Palmdale desert. It was trying to be this great and just never was. So it's like the Royale or something like that. And it just never was quite that royal, you know, just never was quite that. It's just a little bit too dingy, you know, but, you know, I think that would be fascinating.
Or it used to be, and then the son inherited, sort of the ne'er-do-well son inherited it, and then his own whatever issues took it down and the area changed.
Yeah, I think so. And I definitely see this now as a 70s era film. Like, for some reason, I'm just fascinated by how this would look as in the 70s. And just like the whole, you know, especially like late 60s, early 70s, like where it's still kind of like, because then they're like, in the hotels, like there's hippies and, you know, free livers and granola eaters and, you know, and then there's also just maybe like the people who are just kind of like on just trying to survive, you know, just trying to, like those first families coming over the border, just trying to find a place to, you know, figure things out or just survive, essentially.
Some Vietnam vets.
Vietnam vets, you know, I also see, for some reason, it's making me see Lilies in the Field. Don't ask me why, but like I just see Sidney Poitier kind of, you know, helping out the whatever, and I kind of see some of that, like, well, we've got to build something, or we've got to do something, or we've got to do something that makes whatever, that brings them all together, type of thing, in a very simplistic manner.
Is there an inciting incident that takes the butler from the contained, beautiful, clean world of the family home where he has maybe an outburst and realizes,
I think it's
forget all this?
I think it's just the overwhelming reality of his reality being crushed by discovering a secret that's within that environment. He's put so much on it by now at this point in his life that will just take him out.
Will he maybe throw some dishes or?
No, I just think that like he'll just end up questioning everything. Who he is, what he is, where he's been, what he's been doing for his entire life, thinking that he was putting something into this, and it turns out that they're not worth it, whatever it is.
Does he give us 2 weeks' notice? Does he do the gentleman's?
No, I think it's like I think he can barely even, I think it's like I think it's like one of those things where whoever he discovers or whoever, whatever, they make an excuse for him. And even hope that he may come back and lie, whatever they thinking that he may, and maybe even trying to, so worried about him knowing that, and have something that they've got to be hunting him down to try to find him. So we got a little witness scenario going on, right? Which could be hunting him down in the way, could be like just hunting around to like eliminate the secret. If we want to raise the stakes, just raise the stakes.
And also, too, maybe he knows these other secrets that don't involve him, but the family secrets.
He knows so much
things.
That they're now concerned that he feels that he's so portrayed that they're worried that he would actually portray when they've never been worried about it. But now it's like because they are that nefarious that it may be just sending him out to eliminate him. So now we've raised the stakes, and we've also created a ticking clock, which is very fun. Got a little sister act action going on.
And also, too, there might be a you don't appreciate us, we helped you, seeing sort of, you're good as long as you're underneath us. Mm-hmm. But if you try to become our equal, that we can't have that. And don't you know we helped you, kind of thing.
Yes, and then now you've also made a movie that has potential to be a bigger movie with still the same budget level, with just like some ticking clock elements, adding a little bit, maybe not going too far over the top in the hotel, but just making it kind of heartwarming, and the characters like not so over the top, but Cocoon 2, but maybe more than Cocoon 2, because that would be a little too mundane, but no, not making it like that Robert De Niro movie that Michael Schumacher directed that was and it had Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. What was that movie? Essentially where he was a cop, De Niro was a cop that gets hurt, and the only person that can take care of him is Philip Seymour Hoffman's drag queen character in the hotel. So nice. that type of thing, because you can bring those types of casting to something like that if you can bring characters that they're interested in playing.
What are your final notes on this story before we move on?
I'm starting to like it more. I think it's starting to have some potential, bringing in some of the elements that I'm discussing, like from like Lilies in the Field to, the ticking clock element with like kind of like which makes me think of Witness, with being out with a different lifestyle in a different place, and then having that invader come into that kind of sacred place now that's been sacred, and have to fight back type of thing. So you can have you essentially have a character going through almost 3 little mini movies on some level, which people will, I think, the genre bend would be interesting. So I'm excited I love genre bends, by the way. So,
what other characters would you like to see in this story?
I definitely see in the family, whatever that family is that will be there, almost a semblance of normalcy and balance. I definitely, for some reason, see this gruff kind of counter character that's going to be maybe even a woman that, he just doesn't get along with, and that's the person that he'll end up getting along with. So I see that kind of like friction type of thing for somebody who is never looking for it to find that part of that breakthrough will, I think, be having some kind of a real love relationship for someone who's given that away, given up that possibility. I think that's people who get that gruff are often people who have let those things like that possibility go. And I think by reopening that channel up from him will create that. And so that character that can do that, and that will be there. So I see that. And definitely, like somebody who's a performer or someone who's like kind of says one thing but really doesn't know, that he can really just mentor in some way. And maybe that's in the family. Maybe that's all of them on some level, giving them certain things that he can supply, where he can see some value again in his life. So it's really those people that can reflect those things back to him that are going to give the best version of, or the worst version of, the internal butler.
When he gets to the hotel, is he viewed as a threat?
No, he's viewed more as kind of like somebody may be a little loco, a little crazy, but definitely not a threat. Someone more who's like just someone to be humored or even feel sorry for. Because maybe he's just like some homeless dude who's gotten this idea. They don't know, who he is or what he's lived. He's like, even though it's like, it's still what he's experienced is still in many ways more than they've experienced in that level, and it takes a certain thing. So they're not even giving him credit for that in the beginning. So I think he'll just be like, you're just a homeless dude just wandered in here with all these weird stories, be quiet, be lucky you're here and clean the pool or whatever it is.
Maybe I'm envisioning like a laundry room scene where let's suppose somebody's left their laundry in the dryer and hasn't removed it for hours, and he becomes enraged because maybe he would never do that because then the clothes would wrinkle. So his training starts to come out, and his sort of very rigid way of keeping a home in order, and they're kind of shocked by it, and they realize, oh, maybe he's telling the truth.
I definitely see that there'll be opportunities for him to have to kind of like re-earn his own trust, and to earn their trust in the sense of who he is as a person. And in that process of or in even having to, in some level, subjugate himself or be not the butler, because the butler is essentially the head of the household. The butler's not just a servant. The butler is the head of a household of servants. So they're responsible for not just whatever their duties are, but making sure everyone within that household, and usually if you actually have a butler, you have, traditionally, if you a true one, you have a staff of 5 to 10 servants. Or if you're a gentleman where you have a butler who essentially is a travel companion, where they're with that person almost 24 hours again and serving that person. So they essentially live their lifestyle. So that understanding those types of things, I think, would be like understanding that background and what they've seen and what they've learned.